In this short video, we're going to look at how we can get a spreadsheet editor running within Salesforce. And this is all based on the WebViewer sample code that you can download today and get started with right now. So this is the GitHub page for the Apryse SDK and the WebViewer samples. And you can see there's many samples that you can download. So let's get those using git clone. And when that's completed, we'll navigate to the WebViewer samples folder. Now let's use npm I to install the dependencies. When that completes, a post-install script will run, which will actually download the latest version of WebViewer directly into your project. It will then extract all those files into a new folder. Now let's use npm run optimize. And this will start a script within the WebViewer Salesforce project, which will navigate into the WebViewer folder and run another script in there. That script will help us to optimize WebViewer for running within Salesforce. Salesforce has a limitation of 5 megabytes on the size of static assets that can be uploaded. And this script will help us to choose which ones we need in order to deploy the functionality that we require. The exact questions may change over time, but we'll go through them as they are for 11.7. Yes, we'll back up our files before optimizing. No, we don't want to use WebViewer server. And no, we don't want to convert all of our documents into XOD files. Yes, we do want client-side Office support, both for modern and legacy formats. And yes, we'll use the full PDF API. You need this if you're going to do things like redaction. We don't need the production version of pdfnet.js. We do wish to use content editing. We'll also enable Office editing and, of course, spreadsheet editing. Finally, we do need to deploy to Salesforce. Yes, we want to proceed, and when it's completed, it will create both zip files and associated resource and meta.xml files, and copy those back into the WebViewer Salesforce folder, into the correct location. Okay, now let's look at those files using VS Code. The file we're particularly interested in is Apryse WebVinstance.js. The default sample demonstrates loading either a PDF or a docx file, but we want to do something different. We want to use spreadsheets. But it's easy to make that difference. So let's comment out that load as PDF. We should then enter our license key. Then we need to specify initial mode as webviewer.modes.spreadsheet_editor. Because Salesforce requires us to load WebViewer as an iframe, we may need to specify configuration via a config file, which is done in config_apex.js in this case. Salesforce also requires us to break up the WebViewer functionality into small chunks. So within this config file, we also need to let WebViewer know where those chunks are. It's possible that in future versions of WebViewer, the way it's broken up may be different, and you may need to make changes to this config file. If you have any problems, reach out to us on our Discord channel. We're now ready to deploy to Salesforce. If you know how to do this, you could skip ahead. First, I need to log in to my dev hub. Next, I'm going to create a Scratch org, which I'm calling my Scratch org. And then I'm going to deploy the files we have into that org. Depending on what you want to deploy, you may run into problems at this point because of the maximum request size of Salesforce. If that happens, we have a workaround because we can deploy the projects as 3 separate manifests. The first of these contains the WebViewer core functionality, and it will either be WebViewer core full or WebViewer core lean, depending on whether you've chosen to use the full API. The other 2 manifests are always the same, WebViewer utils and WebViewer Salesforce. Now we're ready to open our org, and if we go to the app launcher and see all, we've now got the Apryse sample there. You can now open a file, for example this invoice template, and you can see the contents of cells, either viewing them or editing them, and you can see formulas and so on. And this is all within Salesforce. We've got other resources available that show you what you can do with Spreadsheet Editor, for example, the online showcase, or other videos and blogs. What you see there will also be relevant when you use Spreadsheet within Salesforce. If you've enjoyed this video, click on subscribe and you'll hear when we release new videos. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.